A genuine smashed McEnroe racket from 1984.
Welcome to In Frame Out's Year in Film, where we take stock of 12 months of spectacular cinema and unfortunate rubbish. With speciality releases flourishing and blockbusters biting the curb as the particular subset of grifting losers complain about how video game characters aren't arousing enough for them to creep on anymore, 2024 has come out on top as a fantastic year for film. So make sure you're caught up on our honourable and dishonourable mentions list, and settle in for entries 10 through 6 of our best films of 2024. Delicately measured in its pacing and messaging, Evil Does Not Exist is less concerned with obvious grandstanding and more focused on the complex ambiguities of ideas that are so often reduced to good and bad binaries. When a group of ignorant suits opt to open a yuppie glamping business in an idyllic mountain village, there seems to be a clear delineation between the homespun decency of the nature-loving locals and an uncaring corporate system that promises only disruption and destruction in the name of profit. What writer-director Ryusuke Hamaguchi manages so miraculously is to put this small human story into a planet-spanning, zoomed-out context, where everybody here is just doing their best with difficult jobs they don't necessarily want, and that even the most well-intentioned attempts to coexist with nature are inherently exploitative. Just as capitalistic encroachment appears unconscionable to these locals, the region's foraged woodlands and gut-shot deer undoubtedly view these kindly and environmentally conscious folks as harbingers of change and death. It's empathetic without ever falling prey to centrist false equivalencies or everybody's just as bad as everyone else cliches. And that's a fine line that's stunningly shot and enunciated without condescension, starting glacially before turning into a tidal wave of existential ideations and unadorned humanity. Evil Does Not Exist is beautiful, bleak, and devoid of sweeping judgments or simple solutions for the micro symptoms of a global crisis.
I'm Sue. I'm Sue. Sue, 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 Sue.
The substance is hyperplastic commentary on aging stardom, beauty standards, and the embracing of gaudy superficiality as a survival tactic, may sing to a tune already interpolated by countless be careful what you wish for parables, but dang does it hit every single note with screaming conviction.
You are the Matrix. Everything comes from you, and everything is you. This is simply a better version of yourself.
Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley's two-hander of A Central Turn is such an inspired piece of yin and yang casting that it's tough to imagine this toxic symbiosis and War of the Roses arms race hitting half as hard with any other pairing. Their performances are versatile and volatile works of shrewdly observed mimicry that move further away from one another as the film goes along, and towards a sort of maniacal, mutually assured, destructive desperation. Their dynamic could even be viewed as a filicidal/matricidal duel between an overbearing stage mother and their entitled, lecherous child in a tit-for-tat quest for glory that can only be paid in flesh and fraternity. I've seen it a couple of times now, and every time I watch it, I pretend it's a backdoor sequel to Reanimator, and that the titular substance is just what would happen if Herbert West's formula got scooped up by Estee Lauder. Landing somewhere between Brian Usna adapting The Nutty Professor and Dorian Gray's Videodrome, the substance was a constant chuckle between clenched teeth that erupted into a sickening cackle during the euphoric depravity of the final 30 minutes. What a glorious, unsubtle, despicably grotesque blast this is.
Go.
For the first time since the killing of a sacred deer, Yorgos Lanthimos has teamed up with his weirdo soulmate, Euthyphimus Filippo, on this acerbic, perversely funny triptych about the brash and distressing lengths people will go to for the approval of others. By stretching out the three seemingly banal concepts of a micromanaging boss, a case of burgeoning spousal estrangement, and a woman caught up in a cult, before taking them to absurd and unpleasant extremes, Kinds of Kindness finds morose comedy in the most appalling human behaviours.
Sweetheart?
I want you to chop one of your fingers off, cook it with cauliflower, and bring it to me to eat. Or your thumb, maybe, whatever you think is best.
It's a challenging, intentionally repellent project, dripping with troubling psychodynamic allusions to Freud, Jung, and Capgras, while trading in the kind of feel-bad humour that makes films like Dogtooth and Happiness such divisively harsh works. The core ensemble of Emma Stone, Margaret Qualley, Willem Dafoe, and Hong Chow throw themselves backwards into this trilogy of discomfort with such vigour and dislocated peculiarity that the whole thing takes on an uncanny, almost hypnotic quality. But it's Jesse Plemons who is running this show with not one, but two of the best pieces of acting of the year. Plemons has this knack for conveying figures capable of flitting between pitiful and dangerous, and here he gets to sprawl out and locate the beating heart of these pathetic, prickly men.
I slipped and hurt my hand. I guess someone must have spilled water on the floor. It's probably just a sprain.
Obtuse, acidic, and out of step with the recognisable rhythm of how people are supposed to talk, act, and feel, Kinds of Kindness is another love it or loathe it, irrational, awkward slab of idiosyncratic alienation from one of contemporary cinema's strangest voices.
It'll be 20 minutes before it kicks in properly.
By then we'd be halfway done. No need to panic. What are you flipping staring at? No need to panic. No need to panic.
Part drug-fueled sprint through self-mythologizing acts of youthful rebellion, part hammering rebuke of cultural erasure, Kneecap is intensely political, but only because oppressors and plutocratic foreign interests keep screwing them around. Don't get me wrong, Kneecap finds such a rich vein of comedy gold in the upstart bravado of its band of boisterous blackguards that my laughter was practically an asthmatic wheeze long before the credits rolled. And I have no doubt that if these unlikely lads had things their way, this would all just be a hedonistic swirl of sexual mishaps and scabrous raps.
We could take the bell first, to clear the chaff on you. Bruni, George Best, Babs, Kneecappins. Listen, drop this in. She come out again the fucking Titanics occurring here.
Unfortunately, hundreds of years of tyranny and terror have sought to diminish and delete Irish from the global vocabulary, so it's up to three lads from the ceasefire generation to crank the bass, crack a couple of cans, and douse the graves of Oliver Cromwell and Margaret Thatcher with as much urine as their bodies can hold.
Gach focal Gaelic literature.
Shapilder, Skelter, Sensation, and
And then Nisha's dad was gone. Like, gone. Turns out since leaving jail, Arlo had been having a full-blown affair with blowing up anything British. He blew this up, and this, and... well, alright, that one didn't go off.
Edited with the joyful eclecticism of pulling samples from a crate of records, and hilarious in the same way that watching someone throw a used diaper in a policeman's face is objectively funny, Kneecap is a train-spotting tinged iconoclastic battle cry from a 21st century K-hole and a hot-wired manifesto that states the revolution will not be gentrified, today's youth will answer to the youth of tomorrow, and all art is political, even in extremely silly comedy.
I hope you had fun this week.
I hope you had fun this week.
Oh, I did. You know, we should do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Anora is a social realist fairy tale. Glitter-gluing themes of class, bodily autonomy, and power imbalances between the sexes to an unmanicured Disney cuticle, this manages the rare feat of being life-affirming and joyful without the disingenuous sheen of Hollywood contrivance blunting the edges. By the same token, while it serves as an honest and sobering sex worker slice of life that encompasses the friction and hardship that job can entail, this is no neon-lit piece of faux progressive fear-mongering. There's light, dark, levity, and misery, and sex work is neither played up as a quirky career, nor as some ruined woman millstone.
It was really weird. Super weird.
Like,
he kept
weird?
Yeah, like, he was like Indian Jeffrey Dahmer, and he kept like rubbing my leg in a circle like that.
What is that? Is that a butterfly?
Yeah, it's a butterfly.
You're so classy.
I know.
Gouging out the male gaze, shunning poverty porn, and categorically refusing to exploit his subjects for the sake of puerile superficiality, writer-director Sean Baker continues to demonstrate the importance of authenticity when depicting those who are so often diminished. This is effectively a film about the significance and limits of performance, and Mikey Madison is fearless and delightfully devoid of awards-baiting pretense as a young woman whose financial, emotional, and physical security often hinges on her ability to method act her way through life.
You heard my boss!
Your boss!
Astute, respectful, and entirely believable in its execution and raw adoration for those so often reduced to side characters or fetishized asides, Anora is a 21st century Cinderella story for folks who think things would have worked out better if the prince had just paid for services rendered and then left her the hell alone. So those were entries 10 through 6 of our best films of the year. Check out the playlist in the description below for the rest of our lists, and tune in next week for entries 10 through 6 of the worst films of 2024. Shout out to our Patreon producers Jennifer C, Claire MD, Becky O, Kay Krause, Jennifer Fetish, Reed Stoven, Flayman, CC Sings, and Nicholas Lair-Revere, and a million enthusiastic fist bumps for all these amazing folks who support the channel over at Patreon. Why not let us know your favourite and least favourite films of the year down in the comments, along with whether or not you agree or disagree with our honourable and dishonourable mentions. As always, the best way to help us out is to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, and if you're in a position to do so, consider checking out our Patreon at the link in the description below. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, this is In Frame Out.